10:40 a.m. This meeting has been broadcasted live on the AG's office Guam YouTube channel. So at this time, I will have Tom Paulino do the roll call.
Good morning. For the record, pursuant to 5 GCA 221704, the following are the members of the council. Non-voting chairman, Attorney General Juan Miller, present. Director Teresa Ariola of the GBHW, present. Directors Arthur Augustine of DPHSS, present. Non-voting Daniel Reset, Attorney Jeremiah Luther, representing GMA, present. Andrea Andres of Toki, Brian Hahn of Toki, Speaker of the Guam Legislature, Teresa Salami, Dwayne Calvo, present. Angel Sablan, Executive Director of Guam Mayor's Council, Attorney Stephen Ettore, Executive Director of PDS, present. We need 6 voting members to have a quorum. We have all members present.
I'd like to thank all the members for being present under this first opioid council meeting under this new Attorney General's office. I would also like to recognize our special guest today. We have the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio to my right. We have the Honorable Therese Tolagi to my left, Speaker of the Guam Legislature, as well as Robert Camacho, Director of the Department of Corrections, Stephen Oship, representative. That would be Captain Troy Lozama, the Guam Police Department. Ignacio Paredo from the Department of Customs and Quarantine, the Director. Major Anton Ogden, also from the Department of Corrections. Colonel Phil Caharan from the Department of Customs, also present. And the Chief of Customs, Vince Perez, present. So I believe also we have Mary Rose, the President of GHRA, she present. Deputy Director Lauren Duenas. Thank you for being here from Public Health. Thank you all for being here. Do we have a Chamber of Commerce also present? Oh, Ms. Castro. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. So, and any other distinguished guests that we have in our audience today, thank you all for being here. So, we have the compliance with the open government law. Mr. Paulino.
This will be page 7 of the packet. In compliance with open government law and public law 3634, publication of the agenda and meeting details were published in the Guam Daily Post on Tuesday, February 7, 2023 and February 12, 2023. The publication of the agenda and the public meeting was published on the public notices portal of the Government of Guam and the OAG website on February 7.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Paulino.
The last opioid recovery advisory council was on December 21st, 2022. We were unable to find any minutes of their meeting. As such, nothing has been presented.
Okay. And then we have no old or unfinished business that I'm aware of at this time. Our new business, financial status and update by myself. Mr. Paulino.
On page 18 of the packet, there is a breakdown of how much we received from the opioid settlements, what has been requested for in this meeting, and then the running total. So we received 2.7 million from various settlements. The total proposals is 1.3 million, and that would leave us with 1.4 million left in the fund if everything was approved by this council.
And my understanding is that there may be current additional funds that are are being received. Is that correct, Pauline?
Yes, we are still in settlements for maybe 3 more, and we have 2 more that are pending.
Yes.
Do we have an estimate on how much that's gonna?
On page 20 is a breakdown of all the settlements that we have currently, their projected revenues and the years that we expect them to come over time. So the total that we received to date was 2.9 million, and we expect about 18 million over the next.
So, do you have any questions on that particular issue? Mr. Paulino, is there anything else that we need to deal with on the, that particular issue?
No.
So,
Got the list of five posts. Page 18.
Madam Speaker, the listing, the 1.3 million are the proposals that will be presented in the business.
In the, okay, correct.
right, so for that purpose, I believe a motion to approve is in order. The reading of the amounts that were just, actually that's information. So we just move on to the business at hand now is the discussion that's on the agenda as to the 18 canine dogs to Guam Customs and Quarantine to be the point of contact. So we'll deal with our RSAT first. The Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center has provided a proposal to this council to address RSAT and non-RSAT, which is basically the prison detainee treatment. And I have our director here ready to discuss it further. But my understanding is that this money that's being requested will be for treating those that are arrested by the Guam Police Department and whose cases are being pursued in the Superior Court of Guam and the criminal justice system and are detained at the Department of Corrections.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Honorable H. If you don't mind, I would like to have Athena Duenas, our manager for the Drug and Alcohol Program at Guam Behavioral Health, better known as, or maybe you all know it as New Beginnings. Athena is with me, present, and I would like for her to go through the proposals for consideration at this time.
Are there any objections? Very good. May we have Athena? Probably better to just go to the podium.
If I may, under the settlements, this is under D4, it's to provide evidence-based treatment, including MAT, recovery, support, harm reduction, and other appropriate services for 2 individuals with OUD and other incurring SUD and conditions who are incarcerated in jail. So it's allowable under our settlement.
Thank you. And before Athena goes through the details, a couple of years ago, the Younger Tomorrow administration, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay.
Please.
The Younger Tomorrow administration, several years ago, we got together with then Director Joe Carlito, and we realized that at the time and previous, I guess the history of DOC, the Department of Correction had a small forensic psychiatric unit. And when looking and aligning our mission, duties in the government, we realized the DOC, that's not their mission and that is not their forte. So we proposed to our governor and the lieutenant governor who oversees, we have regular meetings regarding DOC and Guam Behavioral Health and KYA, that the oversight of all these psychiatric and mental health and drug addiction services at DOC be transferred to Guam Behavioral Health officially. And so in we're at 2003, so I believe it was 2021, an executive order came out, and transferred all the services for mental health, substance use, and behavioral health of the population that call DOC their address to Guam Behavioral Health. And so today, Guam Behavioral Health has a criminal justice program that is located at the Department of Correction, as well as DYA. We have a small unit. And so with that, we had to build up our presence for mental health services and substance abuse services at the Department of Correction. And I'm very pleased with a very aggressive team and with federal funding from the criminal justice grants. We were able to get grants for the last couple of years to start up the criminal justice system at the Department of Correction with oversight on behavioral health. And so we have a mental health, behavioral health side and a substance abuse side. And so today before us, Ms. Athena Duenas, who is Guam Behavioral Health overarching substance use manager called New Beginning. She also oversees the Department of Corrections criminal justice substance use programming. And when we think of substance abuse in the context of Department of Correction, there's twofold, what we call general population, which is really the general population that is not in all the inmates at Department of Correction. And so before you, and you will hear in detail, there's two proposals. One proposal is a continuation from 2 years ago that this council has approved, and I'm very grateful that we're able to present that for continuing funding, and that's the RSAT program. The RSAT program is the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Program that the inmates who qualify are able to avail themselves 6 months prior to finishing their sentence. And so that's the RSAT program. On the agenda, non-RSAT program. And that is for programming for all detainees, but not just detainees, that as the Attorney General mentioned, that are waiting disposition of their cases. But it's also going to be able for the general population, everyone at the Department of Correction who is in need or has been sentenced or attached to any drug addiction will be able to take. And so that's the what we call 0.5 education intervention. And that's for the non-residential RSAT program. So we have two proposals. One, residential, 6 months prior to them leaving or finishing their sentence, and the general education program that everyone can avail themselves to and should while they're waiting disposition of their cases or just waiting for their sentence to move along until they get to that 6-month program where they may be able to RSAT residential. So I hope I didn't confuse too much, but I just wanted to just do a little bit overarching explanation of Guam Behavioral Health's presence at the Department of Correction, and I will turn it over to the expert.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, our Speaker of the House. I feel really honored this morning. So many distinguished guests in the room all at once. But thank you for having us come to speak this morning just to talk about our program. We currently have the RSAT program up and running. It's a Residential Substance Use Treatment Program. That's a federally funded program, and it's recognized nationwide because they're provided in the other Department of Corrections all over the nation. We provide that service for about 17 inmates, but there's of course criteria for that. You have to have released within 12 to 18 months, so that we can work with you for 6 months while you're in the RSAT program, and then 6 months aftercare outside, which we provide at New Beginnings. That program provides an array of services which include all our evidence-based models that we listed for you on the documents that you received. We provide the matrix model, medicated assisted treatment when necessary and when needed. Moral reclination therapy, helping women recover, helping men recover. That's a trauma-informed substance use treatment evidence-based model. Prisoner's journey, 12-step recovery work. We also provide ASAMs prior to their release. So that's within the RSAT program. There's actually other things that get provided in RSAT, other spiritual work, employment, education. So we even have as Mujal in the RSAT program. So at NGCC and Guam State Academy. So they have all those things that are kind of in the program, embedded into the treatment program that all those consumers that are there receive prior to meeting. At the end of that document, you have the budget breakdown where we're just looking for a chemically dependent, page 24. A CDTS is a chemically dependent treatment specialist 1, a psychiatric technician to assist, and then we have some supplies listed. The evidence-based models are all curriculum-based, so some of them we're allowed to make copies of, and others we have to purchase. So that's why the supplies are listed the way they are. That's for the RSAT program. For our programs that we're looking that are not RSAT, as the director Ariola was explaining earlier, this is where we're going to work with everyone within DOC. Everyone will receive level 0.5, whether you're there for a drug case or not, because 0.5 is our education cycle ed information on substance use. They'll receive a certificate saying that they received 10 sessions of our 0.5 education program. And then on top of that, we would be serving the inmates that actually have a substance use treatment issue and providing the evidence-based model for that. And those evidence-based models, again, are listed. They're the same evidence-based models that are provided in RSAT. So they'll all have to be assessed. We'll all have to figure out what groups and who will be starting those groups. The only issue is that this is going to be a bigger feat than we thought because we're going to need more staff, which is why there's a breakdown on page 28 to kind of show that we need more chemical dependency treatment specialists in that area because we'll be running several groups at the same time. And psychiatric technicians to kind of help us lead the program. Again, there's supplies listed, the evidence-based model. We need supplies. We're going to need to be printing our stuff. So for the most part, we're hoping to start as soon as possible. Right now in the proposal, we are looking at utilizing who we have on staff at our outpatient program, but that's also for the separate funding. So they're going to have to be like working both sides of the house in DOC and outside in our outpatient as well. Until we are able to receive any funding to get them in the DOC.
So the RSAT, it's going to be a separate RSAT program than the one that's currently funded, that will be governing the amount of services, or is it replace services?
It would be a supplement to the RSAT program we're currently.
Okay, so you will increase the number of beds or cycles in there.
That would have us working on extra space to get the extra beds.
I mean, I know we're not prepared to do this, but
Right. It would probably mean increasing it to about 25 beds.
okay.
Yes. It's additional that's on top of what's already been covered.
So we'll open it up for any other questions of on the behavioral representatives.
When you say that, in addition to what's being covered, do you mean currently covered by opioid settlement?
Speaker, as Athena mentioned before, the RSAT program is a different funding. And Athena, it's the Burns grant.
Yes.
Yes, the Burns grant. It's a different grant. And so this is in addition to what is currently funded. But as Steve mentioned, making sure that we're not. No,
Those are expired.
no, those expired like last year.
Madam Speaker. For the opioid trust fund, no funds have been expended.
For this one, but for the previous.
Yes, we received it, but that was only good for 1 year. So, don't have it. That was 2 years ago. It's expired. It's done.
So if there's no further discussion on this, I guess we'll entertain a motion to approve what has been identified for disbursement on page 24 and 28. Thank you. Do we have a second to the motion? I'll just do a voice count. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And the motion passes.
On the neighborhood police council.
And wish to thank as chair the Bumpy Behavioral Health and their personnel on preparing so diligently for today's meeting. So our next order of business deals with the canine acquisition by the Guam Customs in quarantine. They do not sit on this board, but I will have, I guess it's Chief Zipera address this issue. The proposal is to clean up the ability of detection of drugs on Guam. Have the Guam Customs and Quarantine, Guam Police Department, and Department of Corrections that have worked diligently together to come up with a proposal. I understand, and I will stand corrected, we have DPD's Captain Lozano present. I understand we do not have any canine animals currently assigned to the Department of Public Guam Police Department. So this is one of the ways that was being addressed. The Department of Corrections does not have any canine animals for detection, and from the Attorney General's office perspective, we do recognize that our supposedly secure facility is not secure as it relates to entry of different types of drugs into that facility. So this was an effort by our law enforcement community, along with our governor's office and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, to address that particular issue. But that I will let the Point Department representative address the council as to that effort. And I believe it would be broken down into 12 dogs for the Department of Guam Customs, 4 dogs for the Guam Police Department, and 2 dogs for the Department of Corrections. But because of the cost advantages of doing a bulk purchase, that's why we propose to have them all purchased under one appropriation to customs. And at that, I'll let the chief continue.
If I may, this is approved but under the settlement under J3. Starting on page 70 is a listing of all approved uses for opioid funds. So it's allowed under section J3. And we would be discussing page 30.
Thank you.
I'm Colonel Phil Tarman from Guam Customs. My brief is going to be pretty short because the AG actually broke down what that allocation would be once we've acquired the 18 dogs. So our intent is to supply 4 dogs to our partners at GCD and 4 dogs as well to Department of Corrections I'm aware that the police department has a trainer certified, and that upon their acquisition of the 4 canines, they'll be capable of taking the dogs and moving them into operational state. As far as for DOC, we are in past agreements with DOC, we have agreed that we would pair up, train their canine. And so we also, I'd like to mention that acting director, did you get confirmed already, sir? Okay, acting director Bob Camacho, right, is attending this meeting, and of course Anton's in the back. In our past arrangements, we've had 4 dogs that we're gonna take 4 dogs and gonna pair them up with the officers that DOC provides to us. And then, of course, we'll take the 12 and we'll find the personnel to assign to them, and we'll move from that arrangement. AG, any questions?
As part of this proposal that's being brought to the council, since there's so many animals, canines that are being proposed, the law enforcement community, along with the governor's office, is talking about breeding the animals on island. We have the expertise with people like Captain Wazama. The Guam Customs has certified trainers there. We also have people on island, from what I understand, that can actually train these puppies as the dogs are being bred. So part of the proposal, and I thank Guam Customs for putting together a male to female ratio. So Guam can start to use these pure breeds, and I believe the Belgian Malinois has been identified as one of the most versatile animals capable of training for different types of purposes, whether that's drug and even security and so forth. Very versatile animals. I think if any of you saw John Wick Chapter 3, you saw those 2 dogs. I believe they were being Belgian Malinois. Very versatile animals. So part of the breeding program, they have not asked for a proposal on, because they're still doing the research and how much money would be required. But we do have resources in Guam, and I hope at the next meeting we'll be able to further have Customs discuss actual training on Guam for breeding. The I guess the next one, Chief Taharan, would be the discussion about. Sure, let's stop there.
So currently the one doesn't fund any dogs.
Yes, actually, the Edward Byrne Memorial Grant, it funds the dogs that we currently have. We actually had a prior procurement arrangement with the past AG, and we acquired 4 dogs from that arrangement. But in our grant proposal, we had requested for 4 dogs, and I believe that is active in our current grant through the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice System grant.
Okay, and the reason why I bring it up is, the statute that created the Recurring Council listed certain things you can actually use the money for. And so it really was meant for treatment. It was meant for things like the public education campaigns, treatment, substance abuse order treatment, early recovery programs for adults, harm reduction, counseling services to adverse health consequences, to provide health services for people recovering from substance use disorder, support community-based or conversion programs to reduce the likelihood of criminal justice involvement, and to provide programs for pregnant women and new parents who currently or formerly have had a substance use disorder, to provide vocational and educational training, for individuals who are at risk. And I just, as much as I believe we really do need to protect our dogs or borders, and especially our prisons, it doesn't seem like something that we law permits us to use to go to a money. So if you want, testify to the legislature, is a request for a drug protected dog any agency that wants to house. I just don't know, we would be violating the terms of the settlement agreement and Guam law by approving such.
Thank you, public defender. So I have Mr. Paulino. I believe we would cite the section within the statute. Can you address that? It's within, I believe it's page 54 of, which is 64 of your packet, under section 1703, eligible expenditures. Monies in the fund shall be expended to mitigate the impacts of the opioid epidemic on Guam, including but not limited to expanding access to opioid use, disorder prevention, intervention. We believe it falls within the intervention parameters of the Guam legislature's authorization.
No, page.
Page 64.
And then that's further defined on page
On page 66, but it also states in the determinations for expenditures of the fund, the council member shall consider programs including but not limited to. So this is allowable under our settlements, or big settlements it allows.
Right. So we've done the research on it. We believe that it would be allowable.
That's the thought I had about jurisdiction. So if you get cited different jurisdictions that are used for.
Well, I don't know if citing other jurisdictions would be binding on Guam. So we have also Freddie Shire here to provide supporting information. That is our interpretation of it. It'll be subject to, of course, the council decision. And I respectfully submit to the council that this would be one of the allowable expenditures. Yes, sir.
While you figure out whether it's allowable or not allowable, I just have a question for Mr. Colonel. You have 11 kennel spaces available and you're purchasing $15. The rest of the more.
Right. The 4 dogs are going to be taken by the Guam Police Department. And right, and then you'll see that.
So there'll be no additional costs for them to provide that.
I'm pretty sure there will be some adjustments that they have to make to provide the housing, not unless they go with a hometown option. And of course, those are going to have to be decided by that director.
Maybe if there are, it should be added into this.
Yes, sir. Right. We're still in the planning stages as the AG had mentioned. Part of the breakdown of what the cost will be. Definitely, sir, we'll take that into account as far as when we get the final.
So your bottom line will be problem. So
Yes, sir.
Discussion. So, I'm sorry, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, so. He referenced J3, right? On page 80. J3 was this word intervention here, although intervention was also law, I guess. But that's correct, Tom? J3?
Yes.
My question is, I'll leave that to you guys, but my question is on the, it shows that these are the costs of the trained dogs. My understanding was that you assign the persons to train with this dog, right? And even before they were brought to Guam, so this doesn't seem to be funding any the training or.
Madam Speaker, actually the cost is incorporated in there. That when you see the cost per canine, that includes the training costs from the vendor.
All right, thanks.
And we have an extra payment too, right? Locally? Okay.
Yes. Yes, we have my understanding, and I will stand corrected according to the law enforcement community here, that Customs has their own certified dog trainers. The Guam Police Department has their own certified dog trainers. And I believe the Department of Corrections works with Customs in order to provide that support. And that's why I feel that Department of Corrections is our most critical department here if we want the success of wrong behavioral. We have to stop the drugs getting into that facility. And from my mind and my understanding, talking with the law enforcement experts, the drug dogs are the most economical and efficient method to stop the drugs coming into that facility. And also to check not only the people that are going into it, but also the staff of the Department of Corrections to make sure that we have no corruption within the organization. So, are there any further questions of the trustees?
Morning, everyone. So, AG Moynihan is correct. I was actually going to get to this section at the very end of the seek planning, which is required as part of the statute. So right now we are discussing, as Colonel Tyrone said, we're discussing some plans that are upcoming. In other words, giving you notice that this is coming down the line. But part of the law for the opioid board requires us to do a spending plan. As AG Moynihan has said, we have brought up programs that are already in existence. For example, behavioral health. We just heard their testimony with regard to why they would like to continue. And the funds have already stopped, so it's important for the board to take action. Otherwise, those programs don't continue until the board does approve. With regard to these type of questions, we have two different guiding principles. One comes from the opioid settlement itself, and that's what Tom just cited to. Those are sections in opioid, as well as the law gives us some guiding principles that it could fall. So what's very important for the board to decide is, do these programs, so they're not in and of itself run alone, how do they meet the terms of the agreement, and how do they satisfy the requirements of law? So that's part of the plan that needs to be put together. And I'll wait for my turn to present, but that's generally how it's going. So yes, you could always make the argument, but this is the council that makes the determination. Will funds be expended? If you're not happy with how the plan is put forward, certainly, like today, for example, you could ask Colonel Tyrone, can you give us a little more detail and how exactly will this assist in the opioids? I can tell you there is a section also within the settlement terms that does allow for detection of opioids or fentanyl within the mail system. So there's various ways. I'm not saying there's a right and wrong. It's just how the program is packaged for the board. If the board or the council is happy with it, you are the ones who make that approval. So I'll get to plan more and later. Won't take much longer, I promise.
Just talk a little bit about prevention. So, we've been dealing with a over 30-year pandemic before COVID even hit the ground. And our administration has been trying to burn the candle in both ends. And we need to ensure that we shore up the imports, whether it's to the island, to DMC, to wherever. And then law behavioral health takes care of those who are in need from the treatment side. But it's very important, I believe, that we need to not just do treatment, or else we're never going to catch up and meet in the middle. So I'm very, very supportive of anything that helps stop the import or the use. Because, I can always, it's difficult enough to get as many counselors. And, it's hard. We can never have enough treatment specialists if we don't take care of the other side, trying to get those drugs detected or stopped coming to the island or to the sea or wherever. So obviously, I'm very supportive of this.
Thank you very much. So if there's no further discussion on that, we will, on page 30, I believe, is the proposal provided by the Custom and Employment Department. Do I have a motion to approve the figure for 18 dogs, canine dogs at $76,900?
I know, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, we will take a verbal roll vote. Is there anybody in favor of this? How about denied? Those that are opposed? Name, please.
Just what, this, Mr. Chairman, if I could correct the record, I'm sorry, Mr. O'Toole. I did not have authorization from Long Memorial Hospital for the work on the first one, so simply I abstained. Have since been given permission to use my best judgment to vote against James Chase interest. That's a legal counsel. Like that.
Thanks for making that clarification. So for the second vote, was that an aye or an aye? So let the record reflect that the public defender is the only one that has submitted a name to this. The motion passes. Thank you. The on page 33, the canine antidote program. The issue before that on the reading program, that was for informational purposes. We hope customers will be providing us a more detailed breakdown regarding the incorporation. But on page 33, we are now discussing the canine antidote program. So if Chief Teheran, please explain that proposal.
Right, so just as I'm in full support of this recovery board and all of the actions that we're taking. But one of the key things, right, that we have to remember is that the demand caused by the folks that become addicted to it exposes customs officers, Department of Corrections officers, and GPD officers to these substances as well. And so the canine are also exposed in. The last thing we want is for any of our officers to be exposed to it, and we don't have the Narcan or the antidote to keep them alive until we get them to an emergency treatment center. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, and then we also have the dogs included. I understand that Customs has done the research and Narcan kits can be used for the canines as well. Obviously, they're one of the first responders that are going to be affected by breathing in the Narcan, or I'm sorry, the fentanyl. So we want to make sure the dogs are also protected with these Narcan kits. The proposal I understand is $20,349. Do we have any discussion at the council right now?
How many kits that night? I mean, how many sprays?
Well, what we're looking at this time, right, is right, 230.
Thank you.
How do we arrive at that?
The number is arrived. Well, this number includes the canines that we're going to acquire, along with each of the officers who are out in the field for the one customs standpoint. We didn't produce any figures for GPD or for the Department of Corrections, so this is just solely a customs figure. At this point, the number is 238, which calls for the worst case scenario is that the officer is exposed to a substantial amount of fentanyl, and it would usually take two doses of the antidote to keep them alive until they can get to at least to the hospital so they can get medical care. And what we projected was 2 for each officer. Our officers are usually paired up, whenever they go out and do inspection. And so we like to equip our officers with at least 2 each. In the research that I've done, what I've seen was that the officers in some big cities, they are usually equipped or issued 1 each, so that they would have 2 on site for any type. And really, it's not just for us. If we come across a situation where we find somebody, a person who's used it, and they're also overdosing, we can administer the antidote to them as well. So it helps.
So if QPD or DOC needs the dosage, you can take it out to your stock.
Well, that's like I said, this only accounts for the customs number, but I'm pretty sure since we're still rolling down, so I can get with our counterparts and we'll come up with that figure.
Thank you, Mayor. And that's a point well taken. We'll work with GPD and DOC to make sure that if they wish to present a funding proposal, that we include that as well.
And so even your employer, i.e. the mom, isn't paying for these themselves, so there's no bill, but available to pay for these.
We actually,
Because this is the only fund we have for treatment, right? And so there are other funds available to me for law enforcement purposes like guns and bullets, tasers, pepper sprays, not had testing, so that's where we should use the money, because this opioid fund is only fund available for treatment, right? There's no other money available.
Yeah, Steve, could I speak to that issue and recognizing the speaker, because she just recently had a public hearing on bill, I believe it was 1037, speaker. What happens as part of our settlement, now we haven't secured it just yet, is we have the opportunity to get money, or in this case, the option to get Narcan or naloxone. That will be happening later this year. The problem we have is GPD has in their stock, I don't know how many boxes the chief was telling us, available, but we have a local law that prohibits the carrying of the naloxone unless you have a prescription available. So the bill that the speaker has introduced, she's moving it along. We actually asked her for a little more time to submit testimony. We've already verbally, our office has verbally testified in favor of the bill, and we continue to work on it. With regard to naloxone, we think we're pretty sure we have enough to cover all of GovWong, including some of the nonprofits. We're going through that process with the speaker right now. So just so you know, and can I also put one more factor in now while we're considering, so the board can consider this. The fund that we currently have continues to earn interest. So while we approve some of these things that are going to be used, my recommendation also would be if maybe toward the end, if the board can consider that the funds actually not being released until the requisition is needed by whichever agency is going to. That way, the funds can continue to earn interest to the last moment that is needed, that the agency or nonprofit needs it. Thank you.
That's right.
Yeah, if I can talk a little bit about fentanyl. I just came back from a national prevention, and one of I attended several fentanyl sessions. Deadly, very deadly. We need to arm everyone as much as possible, and definitely the first responders. Everybody who's listening in the proposal. I do want to caution everyone that it does have an expiration. So we need to be very cognizant of how much we have and that expiration date. So I like the idea of just having it as we need it and making sure that all the officers have it. Something to bring comfort to the body. Whether or not you know if a fentanyl overdose or not, it will not harm you. So if I ever collapse, you have fentanyl spray or Narcan, please spray it to me because it's not going to harm me. But you know, my point is, it's a measure out there right now that not only helps the most, it's so deadly. Fentanyl is so deadly, it's scary. Several jurisdictions, New York, for example, they literally have fentanyl boxes all over the place. What does that mean? If you're on the street with a fentanyl box in almost like every other hole. Why? Because if you see somebody collapse in the street, you want to run to a box, spray that person. Because that's lives. Those are the extreme measures in the inner city that people are taking. You know, we cannot I don't want to sugarcoat. Fentanyl is on the island. We know from talks with the chief Ignacio. It's so deadly, and it's best that we arm our folks with not only for those that they respond to, but it's definitely going to save lives. It's right now the measure nationally that's saving lives. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. And I would note also Texas, they're putting in dispensing machines at the schools. So thank you for that scientific information that it would not be deadly. harmful necessarily in doses that are being proposed. Thank you. Madam Speaker.
Yes, okay, so, yeah, so the bill should be put on the first session that we have. Hopefully, that's in the first week of March. So that would allow it to be used by anyone, right, or everybody listed in the bill. And the issue is that we're talking about today now is this getting the actual product on the island. We know that Beard Warehouse has some products, DPD has some products, Homeland Security has a product, or the federal office does. And I wasn't sure if they were going to continue to bring those in, but we did discuss with the Attorney General that if I'm saying this correctly, Attorney Bashir, what you're saying is that as part of the settlement, we can opt to get the drugs, I mean, or the Narcan, the naloxone itself. So they can obtain hopefully a staggered supply, right, because of the expiration date. And then that should be able to cover it. But in the interim, we should hopefully, I don't know, work out having enough supply immediately. So that passes first week of March. Hopefully, we have enough on board to get this first line, right? But Attorney Chair, just to confirm, you're saying that we can, as part of the settlement, get the naloxone itself, right? So we might not necessarily need this cost to buy it ourselves. It might become available just depending on the timing.
Correct. So various agencies do have the product on hand. My understanding is they have a 2-year shelf life, if I recall correctly. The election does come up sometime, I want to say in about May, which means if Colonel Tyrone or Customs and Quarantine does need the product now, that this money would need to be made available. The issue on this one is I don't know if there's an open PO for that product. So in other words, it might take just as long for us to get it through settlement as opposed to going through our LPOM procurement process.
Yeah, but I agree with saving as much money if we don't have to. If we would come up that out precisely. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this issue? Yes.
So I'm actually recovering opioid addict. 3 years away to the day, actually. So at the time of my arrest, okay.
Maybe on.
At the time of my arrest, I was doing, the DEA agent told me I was doing 75 times a lethal dose in 1 day. That's how much I was putting into my body every single day. I couldn't hardly move, I couldn't breathe, walking, I was just so out of it. And they said they had never seen anyone in bad condition as I was. In that time, this was in LA, by the way, I've administered Narcan, I've saved someone's life with Narcan. I've seen people's lives get saved with Narcan. I've seen people die when that wasn't available, and it is one of the most horrifying things that anyone can go through. It is truly awful. And in Los Angeles, the opioid problem, the opioid epidemic there is so bad that if you were to get a painkiller prescription, just something like Vicodin, Percocet, morphine, they would automatically give you Narcan for free. And the thing about Narcan is you don't take it yourself. You cannot administer it for yourself. It's for someone with you. Someone has to be there with you to administer it to you. As you said, it's non-narcotic. It's very safe. And it's meant to be simple to use. It's meant to be used if someone's freaking out. Oh my God, my friend just overdosed. It's really easy to use, and I'm a huge advocate for it. I think it's incredibly important to have that here on the farm. Save lives.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We do have further discussion on this appropriation issue. Thank you. So, with the understanding that the disbursements, as Attorney Nishihara pointed out, would be according to the request of the agency, and in this case, the Guam Customs, and with the understanding that they would be requesting only the amount that they need for maybe a 2-year period with the expiration. I'll put it to the council. All those in favor, yea, please. Sorry. Yeah. Excuse me, Director. Is this? I'm sorry. Excuse me. Does anyone make a motion to move according to our discussion on the disbursement. Speaker has moved. Do we have a second to that? Brian, thank you. So all those in favor, nay? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay? The motion passes. So the next one, if Chief Cameron can explain on the drug test kits. I understand that this is required by customs. It's another way for them to detect drugs. I understand it's not a replacement for canines, but it's also another method in which they can detect drugs with these this type of equipment. This is important, especially in customs with the Port Authority. I think that was helpful for the containers and stuff like that. But please, Chief, would you explain it to the council?
Yes. So the item that you see proposed there there are actually two, and there are actually at least 5 more that I saw. Some are for like the chemical units that the military has. But the importance of an item such as this, a substance analyzer, is that the enforcement work for Customs, GPD, and also Department of Corrections comes to a screeching halt when a white powder substance is found. Because the last thing we want is for any of that substance to become airborne, and one of the officers exposed, and it would be fentanyl, and we'd have to issue the Narcan, or maybe we experience a death. And so for operational efficiency, it gets us back on the job quickly. If we're able to determine, hey, that's just baking soda, that's not what you think it is. And a lot of times at the airport, when officers open bags or open cargo, you could quickly come across a white powdery substance. It could be in a bag, it could be in cargo, and it could be in mail, it could have spilled out. And we don't want operations to come to a screeching halt. We want to continue to do the job effectively, and we believe that this substance analyzer is what's going to keep us on track with the good work.
Richard? Yes,
Do
sir.
we currently have such?
We
an
do.
item?
We do actually have one device for the Customs and Quarantine Agency. We have 5 ports of entry, and our intent is to staff each port of entry with one of these devices. But our device is not assigned to Guam Customs personally. We reported it through the Homeland Security Investigation Task Force, and again through the Edward Byrd Memorial Justice Assistance Branch. So that's the one item that we have. So if we need it somewhere else, we have to get the task force officers to get mobile and bring the item to where it is.
So this is going to allow at least one device analyzer in every station.
That's correct.
This one thing you have no Wi-Fi can do, but this will be.
Right. This is just a one-time. Yeah, this will be a one-time purchase.
So don't expand the capacity.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. This is single use as an entire.
No, no, this is multiple use.
Okay. And there's one police department, the local officers that access to some of those.
I'm not sure.
This would be. We have 4. And the other question I have is, does it identify fentanyl specifically or just the opioid?
Always it identifies all substances, cocaine, heroin.
But fentanyl being opioid based, does it identify fentanyl as the chemical compound?
Yes.
Opioid.
Yes.
Just the way on.
No, it would identify specific.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, does DOC have this test?
But we are doing tomorrow with that. Just we're gonna do a training.
Are they gonna give you a test?
They're working on that.
Well, I think to move to increase this amount by 28,000, make sure that DOC has this one.
Very good. So on the motion to modify the proposal by 28,000, do I have a second motion? Second motion. We'll have the vote. All those in favor?
Thank you very much. Just curious, that's for the actual. I device for what is important. It's additional.
Chief, what do you recommend?
Right. So the amount, as Mr. Wilson Augustine was asking, your question was, did it include the warranty?
Yeah, 140, 135, and then
Right there.
And then there's a, jump right by the 80,000, by 150. That's fine.
That's a second device. Right, that's a different. So for the TrueNarc device, that includes the 5-year warranty.
So 28,000 is appropriate appropriation additional.
Yes, that will work, sir.
Any further
I'm
discussion?
sorry, I just have a question. 28,000 and the per unit is 28,850.
No,
Are we increasing by 28,815 or by 28,500?
Well, let's, yeah, how many devices are we asking to procure? For DLC, right? One additional, okay. So yes, one additional would be that 28,000.
We would just want to make sure that
The
the
exact
exact amount.
Is that 815, 20,815?
I guess based on the market research I did, that's very good. Thank you.
I'll amend my motion to 28,815.
Second modification. So,
That for the only for the one device,
correct, for Department of Corrections.
how about the other device? The one in particular,
We're only procuring the TrueNarc device because we're familiar with it.
also not the other.
It's not the other one. The other one is just listed, it was listed for the AG's office, over the AG actually, to look over. And when we perform the market research, we will move forward based on what the board is approving today. And so we'll be moving in the direction of the
The
device.
your total is
Point well taken. Chief, Chief, can you clarify, what is the amount you're asking from the council for customs right now? Is that the 144,
That is correct.
75?
For customs specifically would be the $144,075. And then for the request we're making to the board for the Department of Corrections, we're requesting one device at 28,815.
So just for clarification, see page 36, that was two choices, more like a choice, and not exactly, because they totaled it down.
That's correct.
Okay, so really, the ask today is only for 6 true Narcan.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
And
you.
that total, yes, Mr. Polino, Tom already did it, so it's 172,800.
Very good.
800,
890.
890.
so that's the motion.
Very good. Thank you. We'll modify that for our papers. So with the motion on the table, we now have $172,890 pursuant to what was discussed on the breakdown. One will be going to the Department of Corrections. Do I have a motion for that figure? So moved. Ryan, so moved. Do I have a second? Second, Brian, so moved. Mayor, thank you. So it is passed 172,890. It's hereby appropriated from the council. The next order of business is the human camera and alert system. This is an informational, the Guam Visitors Bureau, along with law enforcement department, I believe it's Guam Police Department, is attempting to initiate a reboot of this camera system down in Tucson. We're hoping to use it as a template to move out to the villages, the cities that we have here. But Tucson was a special interest because the Guam Visitors Bureau was taking the initiative through the president terrorists right now. They are still trying to put together a proposal with the Guam Police Department and the Department of Public Works so that they could bring that proposal before the board. But as of today's meeting, it's still under review and consideration. It's informational for everybody. Yes, sir.
Just as an information, I have federal funds for parks and recreational facilities. So definitely interested in the outcome of the approach because it's kind of like we're in need of the expertise, but I think that for the parks and recreational areas, it would be helpful for deterrence for sure. So just in the record, I guess.
We will, thank you.
We like to work hand in hand.
Right, we'll have the governor's representatives present at the Guam District Bureau meetings that they're having on this, the discussions. The next one, order of business is for TOGI, the Care Support Program. Maybe if we can have Brian on. So if we're going to go up there, that's fine. Thank you.
Page 42. This is just an initial funding. First, $7,500. Basically, just the some items that we would support. It's to support care recovery, support their education, and also to support their pathway recovery. That helps them PPD test, access to treatment, and also driving school, GED testing, also IDs, home cards, sometimes worksheets, employees, healthcare like that. They don't have any identification, driver's license, social security cards, and online IDs. But also their housing, also we have fuel and logos for that classes, and also maybe possibly emergency housing costs. Sometimes they don't have housing first that will be like selected when we decided upon, and also we don't just make decisions internally on ourselves. We also refer to on Google, we ask the counselors, we ask them. A lot of these things that we made
Very good. I understand, Brian, that your program is, it's like a bridge between getting out of the incarceration and getting them back into the community in effective ways to prevent recidivism, try to prevent as much recidivism as possible.
That's correct. Because when people get released, sometimes they go back into the community and they don't have any support systems. There's a lot of them, they return their family, which a lot of times in places that they originate from are environments that are not conducive for their recovery. So they have people that actually actively receive associates, friends, or persuade the process that actually process that's why cities has occurred. And also because of their it's hard for them also to attain because of their unfortunately make decisions that could be made better. So that's why we support the recovery and also giving opportunities. So they as a director can support that as well as I think we start off with the themselves. We obviously go becoming with support that. Been able to do by investing in God and also supporting the family support of the food centers and people like those. They've been able to reintegrate back into the community and perform productive roles in the community.
Thank you. Open for floor discussion.
I just want TOGI is a major partner at Guam Behavioral Health. Those who follow the recovery system, we cannot nationwide, we cannot support our brothers and sisters in recovery without being able to lift them up. As Ryan mentioned, they can serve their time, they can get into recovery if they didn't get sentenced, they can get into recovery through Guam Behavioral Health and one of our service providers. But if we don't give them the tools to be able to push back and not get back into that life, we will have to serve them. And so I do everything I can in Guam Behavioral Health to support TOGI and the peers. We have many subcontracts with TOGI because really nationwide, that's the way. We cannot talk drug addiction or drug recovery without talking about peer support. So obviously I'm very supportive of the work that Toby does for those who have decided and have committed to being in recovery. And so I fully support her request. I think there is opportunity, Attorney General, for probably a supplemental request that I would like to discuss with Brian. It's a very humble request
It
right
is.
now,
I saw it.
and I'm like already calculating. It's very humble. Toby doesn't want to ask too much, but there are certain elements in their service delivery that needs true support. So for now, I support the humble request, but colleagues in the council, I'm going to work with Toby, and I'll be the aggressive one so that they make sure that they ask for the right dollar amount. So I fully support.
Also, actually delivering testimony for this. Actually, I'm 2 times federally convicted felon. I served my last sentence. I served 8 years in federal prison. And when I got out, I can honestly say it's really, really difficult for anybody to get released from prison to get back into society. No car, no food, 10-minute pack of food stamps, no housing. So we do have housing, and it's with somebody that all the families are gone, they're both dependent on drugs and everything. Be going back into that same house, you're saying that's the first time failure. Without my family, without my support, I don't know where I would be today. I would probably, I don't know where I would be today, but I need family support, I need housing, I need bus ride and car rides to get to my drug treatment, my urinalysis testing, and all of that. And without, I was fortunate that I had family that supported me 100%, and I weren't involved in the drug scene. But there's tons of people out there that don't have that support. That's the reason why we asked me to join this council. I joined because I think recovery is very, very important. And without recovery, we're just going to be spinning our wheels. Recovery is first and foremost for me personally, and then along with detection of narcotics coming in, but recovery has to work hand in hand.
Thank you. We'll speak for the public defender.
So obviously, we help pretty much every time we have, that's one good where I just want to thank you on behalf of them. I think that really would not have been successful without the work so and really I'm not going to go over everything. And $7,500 you guys need a lot more help with that. Just it really goes down for our clients. We really, Mr. Pablo said, the president really with no money in their name. I would be bus ride home. I had to pick the guy up once, ask him where he was going. He had no idea. He had nowhere to go. And I hope the God can shop with the food and stuff. But we're gonna help people. When they get out, hopefully qualify for SNAP in the future. And you guys are really a really great foundational piece for drug court, and want to thank you for your help. And we'll obviously support you.
Yeah, back to that. I think we're asking way too little. Our government's asking way too little. I don't even intend for that. I don't know how much more we can put into this, and how much we need to the recovery addict, but everybody will benefit.
Thank you. Director Sanusi.
Yes, Director Ariely, you very much touched on appropriate, almost a support request. And actually also express the same sentiments, and it's very, very humble. I indicate everything they wanted to do. I'm kind of curious as to this budget really is proposing this for 6 months. The economic plans that we're looking at, because we've got everything from factories to worksheets to utilities arrays, and I think everyone can appreciate this. The value of utilities today has increased, and so yes, I would agree that we definitely need to ask of you I'm not sure, individually how this works in terms of them submitting a supplement, but if 7,500 today is the ask, I will move that we go ahead and give you that. It's like a supplement, so we should have that as a starting point and come in and provide this additional request. I think most, if not all the council members this morning, almost this afternoon, fully support because you're critical. And yes, to the point about SNAP. I think maybe the lunch segment is the first second speaker, so I imagine that measure requiring one in one of the last territories to really get the ban on drug offenders, the different public health and social services has been working on that. It was introduced by a member of the Guam legislature, and we'll be there to testify and support it as so we all do that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
I just wanted to say that Senator Robinson would love to have requests people like you that the budgets and for this low amount. But I support Token and all that it does. But Ryan, $7,500. I know because in our organization that's not going to go very far. So I know that Director Swanson is requesting that maybe we have you come back to a supplemental, but I don't see why we have to wait for you to come back for a supplemental. I just like to make a motion to increase the 7,500 to 20,000 and let Toby come back with a justification of what they're spending the rest of that 20,000 minus 12,500 for the same purposes that is already put in this plan, and that's my name.
Just a point of information before we go on to Attorney Beaker. Toby has two proposals, right? The first one is 75. The second one is, what is the total for that one?
It's 63 to 4.
That was the first one was 75. Exactly. But of course, there's additional amounts that I think that the council might consider, as the mayor has pointed out. So, Chuck,
This is fully for transportation.
right, just for transportation.
It was Mr. Calvo was talking about, to have a specific driver. And it wouldn't just be, basically support. We get a lot of requests in drug court, sort of probation testing, like what Mr. Calvo said, go to drug court classes, to the nature classes, to classes at Guam Behavior, to go to the even West Fair. We had a request to time to West Fair. But basically, we take our peers and support them for our places. So basically, there's one driver, and that's 66, but that's for a whole year. Basically, what the 66 encompasses is the leasing of a vehicle, plus the insurance, and then also the employee, the full-time driver from 8 to 5 to be able to accommodate any requests from whether it be drug court or bond behavior that does do transport and they help their peers, but then sometimes there's other people right outside of the program and supplement to that they need also support. We also take them like Mr. Gonzalez said, not everybody has family, so whatever they need to do, we can't just walk and sometimes we need to say the other day for a bond behavior consumer, I took their commodities. She's elderly, my uncle, and she doesn't have any vehicle nor does she. So I just we just use our own vehicles and we do these kind of things. So we just support our community, supporting not just people with substance use disorders, but also people with behavioral challenges. Because there's a lot of our people in the community, unfortunately, they battle both things. And also some of them are co-occurring, so both the challenges.
Very good. So with this, we have two proposals on the table. Shall the board consider increasing the 7,500 up to the mayor's proposal of 20,000? And then in addition to the transportation proposals that are ending in page 48, shall that be our motion? So shall we second the motion for the increase from 75 to 20,000?
For 20,000 from 7,500 to 20, I second that.
Any further discussion on that? So let's call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. The second part of it, how much was that for Brian?
Well, it's just up to what the board wants to decide.
For the total would be,
Because I just did a 6 month, so that I could provide data to you to support these requests about all the people that we that's asked.
So your second proposal is 31,730.
That's just for 6 months. In the 12 months.
Oh, yes.
60.
Okay, so I move for the for $63,460 and 60 cents for the total proposal for transportation.
any discussion on that? Call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So this is just an administrative matter. The next order of business is the legal and administrative costs. Tom, I'll have you discuss that.
So the opioid law allows us to do up to 10%. So what I did was I looked at each of our settlements and looked at what their allowable cost cost reimbursement rate would be. And I chose the lowest of the law for this settlement. So based on my calculation, there is $264,585.32 that we can dedicate to administrative costs. So the Office of the Attorney General was asking if you would allow us to use those funds to partially fund an attorney, an accountant, a program coordinator, and help with the other administrative costs.
I move for approval.
Starting with attorney improvement, what is the designation of the attorney that is the, what's the function of the attorney that is being? Sorry, what is the function of the attorney that is?
Regulation, compliance, lawful compliance, all these are requiring the dedication of Mr. Bureau to already being tapped out for other matters of the office. No requests. Basically, everything we do here is grounded upon the law and requires an attorney to oversee.
So not a criminal prosecutor or prosecutor specifically for the purposes of prosecuting or working with the law.
Correct, not at all. Just admit it.
Put on the record, so your office needs an additional attorney, because right now the work's all being done in house already.
Correct. Correct, because yours truly has been doing a lot of the work myself, along with my team and Fred Shigura. So we were advised that it'd be better to have a separate group taking this or allocate it for you. Yes, medicine. Well, their time. How we do it in the AG's office is like if a civil attorney is working in prosecution, they have to have a time sheet to indicate how the amounts will be paid. That's it.
You're doing a good job. The prior agency's office was doing a very good job with these funds and with the program.
Thank you. And I'll assure the council that I'm not one to spend money. When I last served, we always had absence. So I'm very frugal working in that agency's office, making sure that people do right by what they're being asked to do. Thank you. Thank you, Director. So, any further discussion on it?
What time period is this?
Tom, what is the time period?
We actually didn't put it in time period.
So is it 12 months? Would be appropriate?
If we could have it until expended.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have it until it's spent. Thank you.
If I could have some clarification on the partial funding.
The partial funding?
Yeah.
We're budgeting, that's the,
264, 585, for 32 for administrative costs of the partial funding. Page 50.
So.
I think the thought process right now is to allow as much flexibility. So if we have an existing attorney such as Fred helping us with whether it's settlement reporting or attending those early morning meetings, we'll need to allow that. It's made to be as flexible as possible.
Right, this is the tail end of it versus as Tom's pointing out, and Fred has often pointed out to me, we're constantly having to meet with the settlement fund, people in the states, those early morning meetings. There's a lot of settlement agreements out there. So it's very intensive for training time. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this? Can we call for the vote now? All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. Motion passed.
We're now on page 52.
So we have the spending plan. I would like to present that now. 52, submission of spending plan.
I'm going to run with that one. So in addition to expending the funds, we also have reporting requirements on how it's spent to make sure we comply with the settlement agreements. So that's why it's important that we plan both on the front end and then it helps us on the back end. So if any of you have run federal grants, you understand we want some statistics and information as well. So I know a lot of money has been pushed out to date with also good causes. We are going to need to capture some of that information. AG Morgan expressed the urgency of getting these funds out to the groups that need it and the important causes there. But with that being said, obviously we don't want to continue to run like this. We finding out that we're having to make a decision really quickly. So in other boards, what they do is they have a kind of like a first reading, new business where a proposal can be packaged properly, and the board would appropriately consider that in their next full business. Like for example, Ernest Tyrone, GPD, Drama, when they propose their K9 packages, which they've done already. The next time that will come forward is they will come forward with the package as well as their budget proposal, right? Likewise, in the very first meeting, if whoever the say vendor, for lack of better words, the vendor has proposals that you want to address some concerns, or when they come back with the whole business, in other words, the second meeting, and you want some clarification, that's a time to say, to propose a clarification and get it in writing. That also helps us, our office, with regard to compliance with those terms. So this wasn't, although we administer a fund, it's kind of a preference of the board because I work for different boards. Some of them like it like that way. Others like to have an application process and proposals to come through that they can read ahead of time, as opposed to one big package. But the law does require a good. Sorry, you see the portion of page 52 in front of you, which does ask that we submit to the legislature a spending plan. You do see 22. I can explain that no plan was submitted, in part because that law was passed in anticipation of the funds coming in fiscal year 22. It actually came in beginning of fiscal 23. So there was no report to engage in because that's how that money came forward. So we were able to fund one behavioral health the first time is we had some pre-statute, a little funds come in and we were able to help Sariola funding program from their students. So I guess I'm saying with regard to the board's pleasure, if we could get some direction on office, we could get some direction.
I just had a question.
Sure.
Like all these proposals, like if you remember the general public, nonprofit out there, like there or the other, how do they know that they can apply for these funds? I'm looking at do like an RFP type of process so that we can get other proposals from other nonprofits. But I heard that the ones that provide ones that provide like transitional housing for people who are recovered.
The great speaker would like to address.
Yes, well, I was looking through my previous minutes because we did discuss this in the previous meeting that they said they had prepared an application process for these funds. They were going to post it on their website, circulate it with the members. they didn't give us a financial creating it, in addition to that, but I agree with that, and I was curious if there was an application process, then why are we looking at the applications, or where are the list of the applications? Yeah, because I also wanted to know if there were any other services being provided that we should be looking at. I'm not sure how these particular ones.
You know, right now, I kind of envision, and this is my first time on this council, the legislature set up all these individuals being representative, coming through the public defender's office, coming through Guam Behavioral. That I would see as a more efficient way to handle this versus the AG's office fielding all of these requests. And definitely, I would propose to the council that we would make it known that anyone that wishes to provide a proposal from the community would work through the representatives here, and it would come through your offices. You're talking a lot of logistics there. You're talking about, especially like you use customs for taking care of these canines, but your departments and organizations are set up for procurement. So it's kind of like, that was how I was envisioning it, to try to keep the bureaucracy down as much as possible from the AG's office perspective. Madam Speaker.
No, but is there then, did we receive applications?
I-
Is there a list, or is there applications?
If I may ask Tom, did we ever receive anything from the office that you're aware of?
The application process was never finalized during the last administration, and we were just waiting for that. But we haven't sent out the application. That would have to go to the board for approval, and after that, we would issue it out.
I would like to see it continued on the AG's website and everybody else's website, and can add to that, yes, but put out a public notice.
And if I could add, I like what you mentioned, Attorney General, because there are a lot of nonprofit organizations with best intentions of wanting to help those in recovery or those who are fighting addiction. But as the state mental health and substance use authority on the island, we need to be able to collaborate and leverage. And so it's, you know, I know all the players, or at least for lack of a better word, legitimate players, because we need to work together. I would hate for a proposal of somebody, a nonprofit organization, who has never worked in one behavioral health to all of a sudden start seeking funding because there's, oh, I heard the Attorney General's office has some opioid funding. I would want that everyone who's somehow associated with treatment or recovery programs such as TOGI would already have a relationship with one behavioral health. It's important that we collaborate, that we don't duplicate services, and I think it's just a more coordinated community approach.
Council members, I ask as the Attorney General, this is unusual for me to be doing these type of council meetings. I find what the director Ariel is indicating here to be attractive from my perspective. My office is tapped out with many different forms of obligations to this community, and it would help us to have some, your organizations process that information with respect to the speaker, and with all due respect to the speaker. We need your help in terms of processing these types of nonprofit type organizational information and requests.
Perhaps there's a bridge. I mean, we definitely, number one, need to make sure everybody knows that the opioid settlement fund is out there, but to work with those interested, to work with the prospective agencies to bring forth the proposal to the board. I mean, I think we can, there's a bridge. I think we can let everyone know, but it won't go through just an open letter to the Attorney General, seeking funds, but working through us and then we bring it forward as a proposal. Something to that matter. I definitely don't want to restrict people to seek funds, but I'm very, very adamant about coordinating efforts. And just considering that coordination of effort will be there if we don't perhaps partner with others.
I really like that suggestion because what I hear her saying is very similar to the legislature. The only way it can be proposed is one of the council members proposes it. It's like the introduction of a bill that has to be a member of the legislature. That way, right, it really isn't cap, like General Morgan said, on our resources, which right now you are between myself, Harvey here. I mean, you would believe how many hours to just put that little package together there. So that would be very helpful. At least it'll be an initial screen. So I like that suggestion. If that way it could come for the board, that way it'd be much easier for us to help package that ahead of time for the board members to read. And remember that what I'm suggesting is that we do a first reading and then an approval. So for our purposes, like I said, the canines are ready, first reading. Next time we expect the proposal to come up that the board can take action on. Right? Does that sound reasonable?
Well, explain first reading, like when.
So like today, the proposal, we had Colonel Tyrone come by and he gave the proposal of how many dogs, the cost and so forth, right? That's just a proposal to come up. Now he's going to put a more thorough plan together. That's what's going to be on the table ahead of time. When you get your agenda, you will have that proposal to consider.
So one reading to hear the proposal.
No, we voted on it.
Correct. So I'm saying this one,
An exception.
right. But for the next one, right? Unless you want to continue to do it. Right.
Let me interject here as chair.
Okay.
Absolutely due respect to Fred. I want, sorry, I propose to the council, let's continue with this model that we have, that as it comes through, contact us, submit it to the staff here, and it will be heard at every council meeting. All of you have your time constraints, and again thank the speaker and the lieutenant governor for being here, as well as all of you. Let's make this a council of action. We'll do the work in terms of putting it together like my team did for today, and we'll just get it out at the next meeting so that you can actually vote on it. But I thank Fred for, he's been one of the, he's been a backbone of today's meeting. So if that's okay with the commission and council, please. Yes, Brian.
So you know that Togi is working with Miami and also with West End. So we provide cures for them and on behavioral cures. They did a prevention, they released a video talking about how recovery does work, how it does impact your life, and they showed how the before and after the components. And then also for Western, we're also supporting them with cure support and other things. So we are the money that we are using, we are trying to help us. If we can, and we will collaborate them and advise them, and it's because we want to help everyone that's actually doing it directly.
And this is what I mean by collaboration. Just to collaborate to work with each other.
Yes.
The recovery community is small. We know all the players, and we just want to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts, and so absolutely collaboration.
Thank you. So, having said that, is it my understanding that we need to put this in a motion, or is it?
I think so move that as proposals come in and presented, we'll be back on. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would also to, for example, behavioral health proposing gaps and priorities for this money, like for just in what you see where the gaps are. So oh yeah, no, I was suggesting to ensure that different gaps are CPS and yeah, that's what I want to make sure because and I wanted to ask, so on the money that we're spending now on the RSAT program, what about so we don't have any proposal here for just regular outpatient treatment
For the community?
correct?
No.
Right, and so I just wanted to see if this type of money should go to that, or you're covered already. I know you said there at one point there was a waiting list. So I just wanted those are the types of things.
So we're working on a proposal that we will, the council, or the lieutenant governor's office. So
Can I add that?
there's gaps being identified by the speaker that we talked about already, and that the council will probably hear very shortly or maybe next month.
I just add that, for example, before I attended the Mass RSAT graduation, I received, the coordinator gave me a list of handwritten letters from the folks that were about to, complete the program and graduate. And there were about 12. They're all talking what Brian talked about. They're doing well in recovery, but they don't want to go home or to where home was because of the prevalence of meth on that case, could be any of the opioids, whatever. And so there definitely is a need for transitional housing for the folks that are coming out of that long period of confinement. And that definitely is a gap that we're also looking at in the OHAP. Fortunately, some people that have ministries and assets came forward and were housing them. But I think what Teresa's talking about, this is, one area that for sure there's a gap that hopefully maybe they can play a role here. The other one has to do with the children in the public welfare system. And this is a very complicated, and every time I feel like we're making progress, I feel like we receded. So the active thing that we're looking at that I think I see also a role, since I would say the vast majority of the child welfare cases, the addiction is the underlying cause, more than 90%, I think.
And I'll emphasize that in the court system, having practiced family court, the drugs are destroying families, hurting the children. So, having said that, I guess are we going to, we have a second of motioning? Are we going to follow that procedure or?
My motion is followed to present.
I second Art's motion, the way we presented, the way we prepared for, I believe it was a monthly meeting.
We'll be talking about that right after session.
So I would support or second continuing the way we prepared for this person.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion? We'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Vote passes. Thank you. So we're at a point now of discussing the next meeting. Is that my understanding, Tom?
We are on open for discussion.
Right, open for discussion. Is there? Yeah. Thank you. Open for discussion.
We have 3 people that have signed up to provide comments to us.
Okay.
The first one is Rand.
First thing I want to say, I love you. Happy Valentine's. What a group. My heart's beating crazy here. The Lieutenant Governor of Asluga Community School, of course, Lieutenant Governor at our graduation. I'm loud enough for it.
Oh, because we're in YouTube.
Oh, I do too. Okay. I tell you, this is wonderful. Told you my stepson, Brad Drake, I told me secretary in the beginning. Very powerful group. I'm making an appointment. It's wonderful. You find those Robert Camacho, what a star! How many years at Department of Corrections and all the things. He started a program with Warden Chrysostolo way back when Joaquin Torre was a director, Sadman's World. We brought in juvenile offenders, 16 years of over multi-offenders in the DOC, one at a time through Judge Afadi. If you want to, give us a little bit of patience. We've been doing this for a really long time. And recently, we've been having some graduations, as our Lieutenant Governor just stated. 4 of the inmates graduated in-house in that arena. Unbelievable. That is such an artificial environment. After dinner, there's no TV. There's nothing but education. You'll never, unless you're in a military school in Missouri or something, to get close to what that's all about. But they had only 4 subjects finished. By the time they finished the 6 months, I'm into the next cycle now, and the 30th cycle, and the same group, unbelievable, just hungry for education, knowing that is their key. Director Marquez of the DEA very clearly stated that if you want to have any kind of advancement for these fine folks, it's got to be education, because that's what's going to really put them over the need for a drug world, where you sell it, where you use it. is by getting enough money, making enough money to be able to support your family. The age group of this group that we had in the 29th cycle, where you're late 30s, early 40s. And the interesting thing is, here they are on the front page today, right here cheering for the Chiefs, no doubt, and then on the back page. Those are the same people that just went through the program that we just did just months ago. And again, we're in the 30th cycle. We've already started. They do testing. They do a K-12. We find out where they are in math. They do a DORA. We find out where they are in language arts. We do a case coach stops where we identify a career cluster. Our school job community school is a WASP, a accredited school. We just celebrated our 50-year anniversary. May 1972 is when we started. And the interesting thing, we started between DOC and DYA. That area is called a school job, like Legend and Canada. So yeah, so we're really in town here about what it is that we're doing. We're so happy to be there. But Robert Camacho, I like to state his statement that he said to us that day. He said, Mr. Conlon, I've been waiting since 1985 to do this. Wow, to get actually people walking out. Now, GCC, bless their hearts, are not flexible. I'm special ed certified, and I'll tell you, a lot of those folks up there who are incarcerated are special ed, who need help. They really do in their education. So we start them at a success level once we know where they are in math, once we know where they are in language arts, and we build on that. And WASP loves that because learning occurs. That's the name of the game. The Department of Labor helps us out once they left the DOC arena. Then the Department of Labor jumps in with their ability to help fund. But I'm not going to be humble, General. I'm asking that the money could go to the clearinghouse underneath the Lieutenant Governor. That's the mechanism we're currently using. So let's go do it. Yeah, right now. Yeah, we got 100,000 a year, 50,000 every 6 months.
And I appreciate your being on the open for discussion. You're speaking to the choir, so to speak, right?
No, absolutely. That's why I say I love you right off the bat.
You've been working with our director.
Well, I've been working indirectly with her. We work with, of course, behavioral wellness is our staff. We're in there every Friday. Yeah, we come in and we work. We also do a peer support. We do tonight sheet in Chemung forever. It's a very powerful program that we've been doing. We got funded.
Right.
Okay.
That's why we're listening to what we were.
No, I was listening close. I just get the microphone. I go crazy. That means thank you, Mr. Thank you. No, we really want to keep it forever. Yeah, thank you.
Before we're going to be working with one April. We'll be
Yes, I'll make it a fun. Thank you. All right, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good, happy on.
For next open for discussion, we have anyone else?
I pretty much said everything I wanted to about Narcan. I just want to say I'm incredibly comfortable here today to be alongside all these important speakers. I was a little apprehensive, nervous about this meeting, but I feel a lot better now, confident knowing that this council is moving more towards recovery. And the science is in. Drug addiction is a disease. It affects the same part of the brain as obsessive compulsive disorder does. And I think that by coming at people with substance use disorder as one of the symptoms, I think, of a mental health problem, because something is going so wrong in your life, you think the only thing that can make you feel better is getting high. And I think that looking at it like that, we can start to heal. We can start to lower the rates of drug abuse on Guam. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for letting me say my piece.
Thank you. And we have one final speaker, Tom.
Dwayne. I'm the same thing also, just to thank you everybody. I was like her coming into this meeting nervous because of the last meetings was never restructured like this. But I can't express today I go into the R side, you'll see I'm one of the guest speakers yesterday. So I did the last class, and you can watch them from when you first walk in And then when they graduate, to see the progress, to see the attitudes, to see the change in behavior. When I first walked in, they just started that class like 2-3 weeks. And when I went to the graduation, you can see the progress. They need to see that they really want to change. But if we don't give them the tools to change, then they're sending them off. And I know AG, you're advertising tough on crime.
Yes, sir.
But you gotta be tough on rehabilitation also. I think it's very, very important. And I do a lot of things with district court, spirit court, because of this, because I know treatment works. Treatment does work, but you have to give them the tools and you have to give them a chance to succeed. Most times, you look at a drug addict, you look at somebody coming out of prison, you just burn a blind eye, or they're suspected, or they're gonna come back and relapse. And I was one of those people because I had a federal drug conviction in '97, and I got a second conviction in 2005. But without the treatment I obtained in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, I don't know where else to put it. I really don't. Only God knows. But treatment is very, very important.
I take my role on the council very seriously. The legislature has mandated this council be together. I believe that the cooperation that I'm getting with the administration through the Lieutenant Governor Tenorio, as well as our governor, as well as the speaker, we were just at the public hearing last week on a very important legislation. As long as I recognize my role in this government, I'm not all three branches, and I'm very appreciative that we have the judiciary here as well. So as I am your chairperson here, I take the role to bring everybody together for the purposes of what the legislature and the governor agreed to in the statute. So I recognize Mr. Calvo and thank you all for helping us make Guam a better place. I recognize I am in law enforcement along with some of my brethren here, and if we do our job, your job should be easier as well. As I said before, we show the drug addicts what the legislature has said as a consequence, and hopefully they take that consequence to make themselves better. But until the legislature and the laws have changed, that is my duty of the law enforcement to make sure that it's done. But thank you very much for your comments, and thank you all for being here. Now we have to discuss our next gathering. So I was hoping maybe every month, but I'll leave that to the floor as you council members wish to meet when our next meeting should be. Do we have any preferences?
Time flies, so sometimes it sounds great to have it every month, but we also need to build proposals, get partnerships, meeting with Mr. Hoffman. So, with that being said, may I suggest every other month? And so we're in February, so maybe our next council meeting will be in April, if that's, I just, it's nice to say we're gonna meet every month, but it also is a time crunch of putting good proposals together for the council
And I like that as well, because we can do a lot of preparatory work for you with the proposals like we got today from the law enforcement community. So please, does anyone have any other preferences? I don't want to keep you guys here longer than we've been. So every other month? Yes.
May I also suggest that we can set a date, like, what is today? Like, today seems to work for people, so this is the third, what is it, the second Tuesday?
Okay.
Maybe we can, if that's okay, if this, the second Tuesday of every month is, every other month is good, maybe we can just set that in stone.
Okay, that sounds,
So,
is there any further discussion? Would anybody like to comment further on that?
That's fine.
Second Tuesday every other month.
April 11th?
Very good. I think we will endeavor to get you the packets in advance, and I think that would be an obligation on our side, yes. And some of them may be subject to financials being submitted to us. We were hoping on this meeting, we were hoping to get all the financials. It kind of took us at the last moment to get them, but we pulled through. So we will endeavor to get you your packets, hopefully a week in advance. So you have some time.
with us meeting on Tuesday, we did these by Thursday or Friday, so that.
Okay, very good. So my staff is here and that will be their instructions. Thank you all for being here. I
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Second. Thank you.
Thank you.